Hello, everyone. My name's Jensen, and today I'm going to be talking about the poem I Sing the Body Electric by Walt Whitman. It's about how the human body is a sacred reflection of our souls and interconnectedness. I chose this poem as I only recognize two of the poets listed, Edgar Allan Poe and Walt Whitman, um, from the reference made in Breaking Bad. I'm sure everyone's heard of Edgar Allan Poe, but I had never heard of Whitman till watching Breaking Bad, and I have never read any of his poems. That's when I decided this is the one I wanted to read and present, just because I really like the show. I wanted to get a bit more about it. For the second part of this presentation, I'm going to be doing a short critical analysis of the themes and literary devices used in the poem. In I Sing the Body Electric, the two themes I found most prevalent were the human body, also being the soul, and sensory experiences. So I'll get into that. Whitman consistently leveled the playing field between us humans, no matter the differences in what we were doing, wearing, and he compared us as the same. Pardon my ineloquence, as sacks of meat and bone, just expressing ourselves and describing the feelings we have to one another, whether it's, at a glance, together with friends, or just an intimate touch to one another. We're all just souls trying to be together. If you look at the poem through the sensory experience lens, the poem is filled with detailed descriptions of bodies, each part of them, the smells, feelings, touch, and emotional connection that's made simply from our bodies. Whitman puts the reader within himself and uses his attention to show us that the human experience is deeply rooted within the human body. By doing so, he creates the belief that we should truly be able to understand each other emotionally by using our physical senses and how they make us feel, the sensations given to us. The literary devices that Whitman used were imagery, free verse, parallelism, and as I already talked about, some symbolism. Whitman used imagery to allow the reader to feel as though they're experiencing what he has seen throughout reading the poem. The poem used a lot of free verse. That is like poetry without rhyme or static, strict structure. It read pretty naturally. Felt pretty awkward reading it out loud alone. Parallelism was seen in the comparisons of people being equals, and the same in a lot of ways, but different as they're in their own souls. So there's kind of two separate structures there. For the third portion of this presentation, I would like to read to you guys two portions that I really liked from Sing the Body Electric. But as to not take up too much of your time, it's just two. The poem is very long. So I'll start now. The man's body is sacred, and the woman's body is sacred. No matter who it is sacred. Is it the meanest one of the laborers' gang? Is it one of the dull-faced immigrants just landed on the wharf? Each belongs here, or anywhere, just as much as the well-off, just as much as you. Each has his or her place in the procession. All is a procession. The universe is a procession with measured and perfect motion. Do you know so much yourself that you call the meanest ignorant? Do you suppose you have a right to good sight, and that he or she has no right to a sight? Do you think matter has cohered together from its diffuse float, and the soil is on the surface, and water runs and vegetation sprouts, for you only, and not for him or her? The second passage is from verse 4. I have perceived that to be with those I like is enough. To stop in company with the rest at evening is enough. To be surrounded by beautiful, curious, breathing, laughing flesh is enough. To pass among them, or to touch any one, or rest my arm ever so lightly round his neck or her neck for a moment, what is this then? I do not ask any more delight. I swim in it as a sea. There is something in staying close to men and women looking on them, and in the contact and odor of them that pleases the soul well. All things please the soul, but this pleases the soul well. I really like those two passages. And here's a little bit more about the poem, just so I can kind of wrap up. To me, the poem gave beautiful imagery of the human body, how we are driven to be connected to each other. It transcended barriers of awkwardness between people, plainly admitting how we all feel about one another. We're all the same in Walt Whitman's eyes, just people, people with parts, but more importantly, a body that is a soul, chasing connection with other souls. At first, I felt I was there with him, walking down the street, seeing these people and the different parts that make them up. You know, what makes a man, or a woman. The things I like about that, and how I feel about just the way they look. And then again, I imagined with him every single part of a human, and how I also wanted to be and feel connected with other souls by sense, touch, feeling, emotionally, visibly, to feel fulfilled and accepted. Thank you all so much. Please let me know if you have any questions. Just post them in the chat for me. Thank you.